My husband chose his mother over me. I used to believe that marriage meant becoming a team. Two people standing beside each other, protecting their relationship from anything that tried to come between them. I never expected the person who would destroy my marriage to be my husband's mother, or that my husband would willingly help her do it. When I met Daniel, he seemed perfect. He was kind, responsible, and deeply devoted to his family. At first, I admired how close he was to his mother, Margaret. Daniel's father had died when he was young, so Margaret had raised him alone. He spoke about her like she was a hero. She sacrificed everything for me, he would say. I respected that. I never wanted to compete with his mother. I thought there was enough room in his heart for both of us. During the first year of our marriage, Margaret was friendly to me. She called me the daughter she never had and constantly praised my cooking, my clothes, and the way I took care of Daniel. But slowly, the compliments turned into criticism. "You're putting too much salt in that," she would say while standing over me in my own kitchen. "Daniel doesn't like his shirts folded that way. You should wake up earlier." A good wife prepares breakfast before her husband leaves. At first, I laughed it off. I told myself she was only trying to help. Whenever I mentioned her comments to Daniel, he defended her. "That's just how mom talks. Don't take it personally." So I tried not to. Then Margaret began visiting without calling. She had a spare key that Daniel had given her before we were married. She would let herself in, rearrange our cupboards, clean rooms I had already cleaned, and comment on everything she thought I was doing wrong. One Saturday morning, I came downstairs wearing pajamas and found her sitting at our kitchen table drinking coffee. "You sleep very late," she said, looking at the clock. It was only 8:30. "I didn't know you were coming. I shouldn't need permission to visit my son." I looked at Daniel, expecting him to say something. Instead, he smiled and asked, "Did you make enough coffee for everyone, Mom?" That moment should have warned me. The situation became worse when Daniel and I started trying to have a baby. After 8 months without success, Margaret began making cruel comments disguised as concern. Perhaps some women simply aren't meant to become mothers. Daniel has always wanted children. I hope he doesn't miss his chance. She even suggested that I might have hidden fertility problems before the wedding. I cried in the bathroom after she left. Daniel found me and asked what was wrong. When I told him what his mother had said, he sighed. "She's worried about me." "Worried about you?" "She accused me of lying to you." "She didn't mean it that way." She said it directly. "Why do you always look for reasons to dislike her?" His question shocked me. I had spent years trying to earn Margaret's approval, yet somehow I had become the villain. A few months later, we finally received wonderful news. I was pregnant. Daniel cried when I showed him the test. He hugged me, kissed me, and promised that we would be the best parents in the world. For one beautiful evening, I believed everything was going to change. Then we told Margaret. Instead of congratulating me, she turned to Daniel and said, "Make sure you get a proper medical confirmation before becoming too excited." The doctor confirmed the pregnancy, but Margaret still found ways to undermine me. She criticized what I ate, how much I rested, and the names I considered for the baby. She insisted that if we had a girl, we should name her after her. When we learned we were having a daughter, Daniel immediately agreed. "Margaret is a meaningful name," he said. "I don't want to name our daughter Margaret. My mother deserves this. This is our child. We should choose a name together." He accused me of disrespecting his family. That became Daniel's favorite argument. Whenever I disagreed with Margaret, I was disrespectful. Whenever I set a boundary, I was selfish. Whenever I expected him to support me, I was forcing him to choose sides. The breaking point came 2 weeks before my due date. Daniel and I had agreed that no one would be present during the delivery except him. I wanted privacy, and the thought of Margaret criticizing me during labor made me anxious. One evening, Margaret arrived carrying a suitcase. "I'm staying until the baby arrives," she announced. I stared at Daniel. "Did you know about this?" He avoided my eyes. "Mom wants to help. We agreed that we wanted time alone before the birth. She came all this way. She lives 20 minutes away." Margaret placed her suitcase beside the stairs and smiled as though the decision had already been made. That night, I told Daniel she had to leave. "She is not moving into our home without discussing it with me. She's my mother. And I'm your wife. Why are you making everything into a competition?" "I'm not. I'm asking you to respect me in my own home." He became angry. "She has done more for me than anyone in this world. I will never turn my back on her." "I'm not asking you to turn your back on her. I'm asking you to stand beside me." He slept in the guest room that night. 3 days later, I woke up with painful contractions. Daniel drove me to the hospital while Margaret followed in her car. When the nurse asked who would be in the delivery room, I said only my husband. Margaret immediately protested. "I'm the grandmother." The nurse calmly explained that it was my decision. Margaret turned to Daniel. "Are you going to allow her to exclude me from the birth of my first grandchild?" I looked at my husband, terrified and in pain, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he said, "Maybe Mom could stay for the beginning." "No," I said. "We already discussed this." Margaret began crying. After several minutes of arguing, Daniel followed her into the hallway to comfort her. He left me alone while I was having contractions. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. A nurse finally found him in the waiting area, sitting beside his mother. When he returned, I was already close to delivering. Our daughter, Lily, was born less than 40 minutes later. The moment I held her, I felt a love stronger than anything I had ever known. But when I looked at Daniel, all I felt was disappointment. He had abandoned me during one of the most frightening moments of my life because his mother's feelings mattered more than my safety. After we returned home, Margaret became even more controlling. She grabbed Lily from my arms whenever she cried. She criticized breastfeeding and said formula would allow her to keep the baby overnight. She posted pictures online without permission and introduced Lily as my baby. One afternoon, I came downstairs and discovered that Margaret had invited several relatives to our home without telling me. Lily was only 3 weeks old. People were passing her around while I stood there exhausted and horrified. "Give me my baby," I said. Margaret held Lily more tightly. "She's perfectly safe." I said, "Give her to me." The room became silent. Margaret handed Lily over, then looked at Daniel. "Are you going to let her speak to me like that?" Daniel pulled me into the hallway. "You embarrassed my mother. She invited people into our home and passed our newborn around without asking. She was excited." "I don't care. I am Lily's mother. And she's Lily's grandmother. That does not make her the parent." Daniel's expression changed. "You need to apologize." I stared at him. "No. Then maybe you should stay somewhere else until you calm down." His words left me speechless. He was asking his wife and newborn daughter to leave so his mother would feel comfortable. That evening, I packed a suitcase and called my sister. Daniel watched from the doorway but did nothing to stop me. As I placed Lily into her car seat, he said, "You're being dramatic." I looked at him and finally understood the truth. He had already chosen his mother. He had been choosing her throughout our entire marriage. Every time he dismissed my feelings, ignored my boundaries, or allowed her to disrespect me, he made the same choice. I stayed with my sister for 2 weeks. Daniel barely contacted me. When he did, he demanded that I apologize to Margaret before returning home. Instead, I contacted a lawyer. The day Daniel received the divorce papers, he called me repeatedly. When I finally answered, he sounded furious. "You're destroying our family." "No, Daniel. You destroyed it when you asked your wife and daughter to leave your home. I thought you would calm down and come back. You thought I would surrender." He became quiet. Then he said, "Mom thinks you're using Lily to punish us. This has nothing to do with what your mother thinks. She deserves to see her granddaughter. You still don't understand. You're discussing our marriage with her while speaking to your wife." For the first time, Daniel began to cry. He promised counseling. He promised boundaries. He promised to take Margaret's key and stop her from visiting without permission. But I had heard promises before. I agreed to attend one counseling session, not because I wanted to save the marriage, but because I needed to know I had tried everything. During the session, Daniel admitted that he felt responsible for his mother's happiness. He believed that disagreeing with her made him an ungrateful son. The therapist asked, "When your wife needed you during childbirth, whose emotional needs did you prioritize?" Daniel looked down. "My mother's." "And when you asked your wife and newborn baby to leave?" "My mother's." The therapist explained that marriage required Daniel to create a new primary family with his wife and child. Loving his mother did not require allowing her to control his home. Daniel finally admitted he had failed me. But an apology could not erase years of pain. I told him I hoped he changed, but I would not risk raising Lily in a home where her mother was treated like an outsider. The divorce was finalized 8 months later. Daniel now sees Lily according to our custody agreement. Margaret's visits must happen during his parenting time, and she is not allowed to make medical, educational, or parenting decisions. Daniel eventually took back her spare key and moved into a smaller apartment. He says he is still attending therapy and learning to set boundaries. Sometimes he asks whether there is any chance for us. My answer remains no. I do not hate him, but I no longer trust him with my heart. Love should not require begging someone to defend you. Marriage should not feel like competing for second place. Leaving was terrifying. I worried about raising Lily alone, paying bills, and rebuilding my life. But every morning, I wake up in a peaceful home where no one walks in without permission, criticizes my parenting, or tells me that my feelings do not matter. I want my daughter to grow up knowing that love and respect belong together. I want her to understand that boundaries are not cruel and that protecting yourself does not make you selfish. My husband chose his mother over me. So, for the first time, I chose myself.